Theory 3. Proving lines parallel. Which lines are parallel? Justify your answer. So we see that these two angles are congruent. That means the lines that are parallel have to be the ones that they're next to. So BA and HK would have to be parallel. And they're parallel because if you look at those two angles, they are corresponding. So it has to be the converse of the corresponding angles postulate. And that is number 1. Number 2. Which segments are parallel? Justify your answer. Since these two angles are congruent, that means MN and RC would have to be parallel. And looking at the 35s, they are corresponding, so this will have to be the converse of the corresponding angles postulate. And that is number 2. Number 3. Complete the flow proof below. We're given angles 1 and 3 are supplementary, meaning they add up to 180 degrees, and we're trying to prove that A and B are parallel. Here we're choosing which angles are a linear pair. That would be angles 1 and 2 form a linear pair. And it says 1 and 3 are supplementary, and that is given. We're told that in our given. So angles 1 and 2 are supplementary, and that is because angles that form a linear pair are supplementary. Now, this says supplements of the same angle are congruent. So if angles 1 and 3 are supplementary, and angles 1 and 2 are supplementary, notice how 2 and 3 are both supplementary to angle 1. That means angles 2 and 3 are going to be congruent. So therefore, lines A and B are parallel because when corresponding angles are congruent, it makes them parallel. And 2 or 3 are corresponding angles. So like I said, if corresponding angles are congruent, then lines are parallel. Number 4. 2 workers paint lines for angled parking spaces. One worker paints a line so that the measure of angle 2 is 65. The other worker paints a line so that the measure of angle 3 is 65. Are the lines parallel? Yes, they are parallel because 2 and 3 are alternating exterior angles, and since they are congruent, that makes the lines parallel. So that's number 4. Number 5. Find the value of x for which D and M are parallel. For D and M to be parallel, those two angles would have to be equal. So let's set those two equal to each other so we can find x that will make that happen. So setting these two equal to each other, we'll have 2x minus 24 equals 86. Add 24 to both sides, you get 2x equals 110. Divide both sides by 2, and you get x is 55. That's the answer, so let's type it in. So x equals 55. Number 6. Find the value of x for which M and N are parallel. So let's take a closer look at it. So these are alternating exterior angles. If these lines are parallel, that means these would be equal to each other. So let's set them equal to each other. So 3x minus 30 equals 2x plus 19. So we subtract 2x from both sides and add 30 to both sides, and we get x equals 49. So let's type that in. So let's type in 49. And that's number 6. Number 7. Use the given information to determine which lines, if any, in the figure to the right are parallel. Justify each conclusion with a theorem or postulate. So we have angle 2 is supplementary to angle 3. I'm going to zoom in to look closer at it. So here's angle 2 and angle 3. Looking at this, we can see that they are same side interior angles. When the lines next to them are parallel, they are supplementary, and the lines in question are A and B. So let's go back and see what the question is asking for. So it says, because it is given that angle 2 is supplementary to angle 3, lines A and B would have to be parallel. That's what we just said, because they are same side interior angles. And that's number 7. Going to number 9. Find the value of x for which R and S are parallel. Then find measure of angle 1 and the measure of angle 2. Okay, so let's take a closer look at that. So angles 1 and 2 are corresponding angles, and if R and S are parallel, then 1 and 2 are equal to each other. So let's set these equal to each other. Now we add 2x to both sides and subtract 72 from both sides. That gives us x equals 9. So now we need to find both of the angles. Since they're both the same, we only got to substitute it in for one of them. Substituting it in for 72 minus x, we have 72 minus 9 equaling 63. And since both of them have the same measure for the angles, it's going to be 63 for their angle measures. So let's type it in. So x is 9, and the measure of angle 1 is 63. And so is the measure of angle 2. Going to number 11, it wants us to write a flow proof. So we're given that J and K are parallel, so these two lines are parallel, and we're given that angle 6 and angle 10 are congruent to each other. So fill in the blanks. So we have J being parallel to K. The reason is given because we're given that information. Angles 10 and angle 2 are corresponding angles. And that we can tell by looking at the figure itself. Now we have the statement that angle 10 is congruent to angle 2. We know if two lines are parallel and they're cut with a transversal, then the corresponding angles are going to be congruent. So we're going to choose if two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then the corresponding angles are congruent. Now I'm saying that since angle 10 is equal to angle 2 and angle 6 is equal to angle 10, that angle 6 will be equal to angle 2. If we have two angles, both being equal to a third angle that's the same, then we can say they're equal to each other. So since both angle 6 and angle 2 are equal to angle 10, we can say they equal each other. So we're going to say if two angles are each congruent to a third angle, then they are congruent to each other. And we can say, to prove our statement, x is parallel to n, if angle 6 and angle 2 are congruent and they're both corresponding angles, then we can say the lines are parallel. And that's the answer for number 11. Number 12. Which sides of quadrilateral PLAN must be parallel? Well, let's draw it out and see. So here's PLAN. To figure out which sides will be parallel, we need to see which pair of angles add up to 180 degrees, and that's because all four of these are same side interior angles, but only the ones that add up to 180 would be parallel. 51 plus 129 is 180, and 36 plus 144 is 180. So P, L, and A are the sides that are parallel to each other. So let's type that in. So P, L, A, and N, and we said they're same side interior angles. That's number 12.